Davros is one of Doctor Who's most iconic characters, and he's only appeared in a handful of episodes during Classic Who and NuWho, which are arguably at one point made his appearances even more special. But in today's video, we're going to be speaking about how Doctor Who ruined the character of Davros. And trust me, it's not for the reason that a lot of people have been saying, or you might think it is. I would like to start this video by making it pretty clear. This isn't about Russell T Davies' decision to take Davros out of the chair and remove his scars.
He's a wheelchair user who is evil. And I had problems with that, and a lot of us on the production team had the problems with that, of associating disability with evil. And trust me, there's a very long tradition of this. I'm not blaming people in the past at all, but the world changes, and when the world changes, Doctor Who has to change as well. Without the facial scarring, and without the wheelchair or his support unit, which functions as a wheelchair, I say this is how we see Davros now. This is what he looks like. This is 2023, this is our lens, this is our eye. Things used to be in black and white, they're not in black and white anymore. And Davros used to look like that, and he looks like this now.
I personally don't believe this ruins the character. Of course, these are some of Davros' most distinguishing features. His chair, his facial scarring, and his big blue eye. But that can still work in the current show. I came up with a theory that I spread online a couple of months ago when this was announced, that maybe in Series 9 when Davros stole the 12th Doctor's regeneration energy, it healed his scarring and made him grow legs, and that he doesn't need his chair anymore. Maybe he still has the big blue eye, and maybe he's in a flotation device, but he doesn't need these things to support him anymore. Of course, in the Children Need special, we saw Davros of old, Davros making and creating the Daleks, so it wasn't too much of a necessary thing to explain what happens in the future. But if Davros were to return, I feel like this would be a great way to bring him back, and I feel like a lot of the fans would actually appreciate this way, tying it back into previous and making it make actual sense, rather than Davros just coming back without his scarring and without him being in a chair. Of course, Doctor Who will most likely do the second option, but I always think it's a nice headcanon to believe the first thing. And as we saw in the Children Need thing, Davros doesn't need this to be scary or distinguishing. His voice and how he acts and how he comes across screen is scary enough, and that was shown even in a comedic Children Need special in this moment.
The war has caused the guarded race to mutate, but within this casing we can evolve, we can start anew, we can become stronger than ever.
We will become the supreme race in the universe!
So yeah, I don't think that's how Doctor Who have ruined Davros whatsoever. I think from there, he's completely salvageable as a character. For a lot of people, he isn't, because his iconic look distinguishes his character for a lot of people. But for me, because of Julian Bleach, it's his voice and how he comes across as screen. His presence he has on screen is what makes Davros Davros, and how he acts. I don't really care about his chair or his facial scarring. To me, that's not what makes the character whatsoever. I understand why people might be frustrated, but again, it is the 21st century. But I do understand both sides. We are now finally getting into why I personally believe Doctor Who have ruined Davros. In the past 19 years since NuWho came back onto our screens, we've only seen Davros twice. Of course, technically 4 times, because both of these times were 2-parters, but as a big story, it's only been twice. And I think what makes Davros so special is he doesn't come back every series, like the Daleks or Cybermen or Master. He's a character that when he comes back on screen, because of how much time has passed between his appearances, it holds a level of weight. But only having him 2 times so far in 19 years, to me, feels a bit criminal. Don't get me wrong, I think these appearances are great, and he's portrayed so well by Julian Bleach. The emotion, how he portrays Davros is incredible. But as well, I kind of feel like in these stories, he plays second fiddle to the Daleks a little bit, and I would really appreciate in the new era of the show if Davros got a chance to shine on his own, outside of the Daleks. He doesn't have to be with the Daleks to make him a good villain, and I'd love to see that, especially with brand new Disney Doctor Who. I'm really hoping we get to see this. I also kind of feel like with his appearances, he's been constrained a little bit to what he's actually doing. In his first appearance, of course, he was trying to destroy the whole of reality, but again, it's several jokes in that episode that literally suggest he's just locked up in a basement. In his second appearance for NuWho, again, it's like he's locked up in a closet. I would love to see Davros doing more stuff, being more conniving, maybe on his own, doing something more exciting than being that old grandpa in a closet. He can do so much as a character, and I feel like as of recently we really haven't seen that. And Classic Who managed to capture his conniving sensibility very well. Even in audios, he's like this, and I'd love to see more of that in NuWho. And I feel like for a lot of NuWho fans that maybe haven't watched Classic Who, Davros has been tainted in that way as a boring character that does play certain fiddle to the Daleks, which, if anybody has watched Classic Who, listened to audio dramas or read books, you know that's not the case. Davros is far more scarier in my opinion than the Daleks, and far much more interesting than the Daleks. So far I would like to see Davros in more episodes. I feel like Doctor Who has recently have limited him. Of course I don't want to see him in every series, every other series. I feel like years between these appearances are great, but maybe a few more appearances than the massive long amount of space that we've had between each of his NuWho appearances would be great. Making him the main and centre of attention of an episode instead of playing second fiddle to the Daleks as well, like in Classic Who, would be incredible. I feel like it would boost the character and make him a staple of NuWho especially. And I would love to see that a lot more than we already do. I feel like Davros is such a great character that now with Russell T Davies is going with him, taking him out of his chair, removing his facial scarring, I feel like we can do so much more with the character.
Release me.
Davros.
Don't touch that switch.
Why not?
That controls my life support systems. I could not survive 30 seconds without them.
Order the destruction of the incubator section.
I'm also really not a big fan, and I personally feel like this may have even been the catalyst for me making this video, of how they handled Davros with Peter Capaldi's Doctor, the 12th Doctor. Him going back in the past and inadvertently creating Davros. I don't like that. I don't like how they played that out, him meeting child Davros. I really wish they did something else with that idea, because Peter Capaldi's interactions with Julian Bleach's Davros are utterly incredible. They remind me so much of Tom Baker's interactions with Davros in Destiny of the Daleks and Genesis, and I wish we got to see more of that, and especially in a different story. And Davros in these stories are great, but I don't like necessarily with what they did with the character. Julian Bleach's performance, like I said, is emotional, it's incredible, and it's probably one of his best yet as Davros. Well, of course, he's only a 2, but just Davros in general. But I would love to see more of him and more of that story instead of what they went with. And I feel like that tainted Davros' character slightly. The Doctor being that intertwined with the history, rather than him just being the creator of the Daleks and then meeting at that point, sort of ruins it for me.
Why have I ever let you live?
Compassion, Doctor. It has always been your greatest indulgence. Let this be my final victory. Let me hear you say it just once. Compassion is wrong.
So yeah, I feel like there's a couple of easy fixes with Davros' character, and I feel like especially with Russell T Davies' outlook on the character, I feel like we've got a bright future for Davros, and I'm hoping because of the changes made with him, that we see more of him now. That now he's made this change for cultural reasons and society, that we can finally see more of Davros on screen, and that all fans alike can enjoy his character. But comment down below why you think Davros might have been ruined, or why you like the character so much. I've been your host Samuel, and I'll catch you in the next Samuel Who video. And I appreciate everybody waiting, because I took a little 2-week break.